Most Venerable Bhante Maha Thera and all the novices, all the Bhantes and Ayyananda Bhikkhuni and Upasikas and devotees in the Dhamma. Today we are going to conduct another very important session in our Novitiate program. Once Buddha has pointed out that there are 4 factors that should be carried out, that should be cultivated by a person who is expecting to achieve the Sotapanna state. Our intention is the final goal of the Buddhist followers is to attain emancipation, Nibbana, right? So that attaining Nibbana, there are 4 steps, as we know. What are they? Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arahat. Extreme enterer, one returner, non-returner, and arahantship. So that attaining enlightenment and coming to the first step of the enlightened path, Sotapanna state, Buddha mentioned that there are 4 factors to be cultivated. Chattaro me bhikkhave dhamma bhavita bahuli kata sotapatti phala satchikiriyaya sangvattati. Out among you there may be someone who is expecting to achieve the status of Sotapanna in this very life, right? Anyone? There may be. So therefore, so that achieving that goal, we have to practice 4 things. What are the 4? That is mentioned in the Sotapatti Sangyutta, in Sangyutta Nikaya, a discourse, sutta known as Phala Sutta. Phala Sutta. It P-H-A-L-A, Phala Sutta. According to the sutta, Chattaro me bhikkhave dhamma bhavita bahuli kata sotapatti phala satchikiriyaya sangvattati. O monks, there are 4 factors to be implemented, cultivated by a person who is expecting to achieve Sotapatti state. What are the 4? Number 1, Sappurisa Sansevo. Sappurisa Sansevo means association of noble friends, noble companions. That is the first factor. Who are the noble companions? The Buddhas, silent Buddhas or Pacceka Buddhas, and Arahants. Anyone else? As well as the one who has entered a stream, Sotapanna status, Sakadagami, Anagami status, those who have entered the path and those who have achieved the path in different status, they can be identified as the nobles, noble friends, noble companions. Those who associate such noble people, noble companions, more and more, only that the way one can really understand the real way for attaining enlightenment. right? Therefore, the first one is called Sappurisa Sanseva. Second factor is Saddhamma Savanang, listening to Dhamma. Listening Dhamma. Why listening Dhamma is very important? Because only through listening Dhamma we really understand the teachings of the Buddha as well as Four Noble Truths. So, by the Buddha's period, there were different ways of gaining knowledge. Sutta, Datta, Vachasa, Parichita, Manasanupekkika. Different words are used in Pali canonical text. Through listening, we can gain knowledge, right? Then sometimes just after listening, having gained knowledge, we just try to get them understanding. Then we try to investigate, make an investigation or cost over the points that we have learned, heard. And then we try to contemplate on those points so that gaining real understanding, right? Through the listening, we can gain knowledge. Through reading, we can gain knowledge. Through practicing, we can gain knowledge. Whatever the way, method we use, the listening, Dhamma is one of the main sources of gaining knowledge. That is why listening Dhamma has been considered a great practice which can be identified as a helpful factor for the attaining enlightenment. The third point says Yoniso Manasikara. It means practice in mindfulness. Practice in mindfulness. In today's talk, I would like to draw your attention on how to practice mindfulness under Samma Sati in Noble Eightfold Path. However, practice in mindfulness, how to concentrate on present moment. Through the practicing of mindfulness is the fourth factor. And the last one says, Dhammanudhamma Patipattiya. Dhammanudhamma Patipattiya means practice in the Dhamma. Putting the Dhamma into practice. What we have learned should be put into practice for our day-to-day life. Right? That is called Dhammanudhamma Patipattiya. That is the practical aspect of listening, learning, practical aspect of all the theoretical knowledge that we gain through different ways. Right? Dhammanudhamma Patipattiya. Only those who practice, cultivate these four principles, he would be able to attain the step of extreme enterer, Sotapanna. Therefore, we are now, through this program, always give you awareness on doctrinal matters that the Buddha has elaborated for your understanding, for your knowledge, and which can be helpful to develop these four factors accordingly. So therefore, in today's Dhamma talk, evening talk, we will be talking about Noble Eightfold Path. You know, we are talking about the those who have enlightened, right? But even in this world, there are certain higher qualitative people, right? As I mentioned in last talk, even among the Putujjanas, right? Worldliness, there are two types. What are the two? Can remember anyone? Andhabala Putujjana and Kalyana Putujjana. Andhabala Putujjana means blind worldliness. Those who are in foolish and lower status, out of the Putujjanas. Kalyana Putujjana are the people who have eradicated, who are trying to eradicate defilements, who have been avoided unwholesome deeds, right? They are considered the Kalyana Putujjana. So even though now the representation of the Buddha's disciples are the monks and nuns, right? Whom you are advised. So they can be identified as the people, the noble people, even though they have not attained any status, no matter is it, right? In the existing situation, who direct us the real path, shows us the real path, they are the noble associate, noble friends who have to be worthy enough to associate. Then, which one? No, that is not actually in the slide. That is what I wanted to eye-opening, right? Just to have give an awareness with regard to the importance of listening Dhamma in mindfully. That is what I just try to emphasize. Then secondly, what kind of path Buddhism has elaborated? Is it only for hereafter? It means that, does Buddhism talks about supramundane achievements? Something, Nibbana or whatever, something has to be achieved after death? No. That is why Buddhism is, some scholars are of the opinion that Buddhism is a pessimistic religion, right? Pessimistic religion. Isn't it? No. Some people say that Buddhism is an optimistic religion. Is it?
Depends on the frame of mind.
Is it correct? Buddhism is optimistic? How we can say like that? Because when we come to these two, whether Buddhism is pessimistic or optimistic, it comes into an extreme. Buddhism has avoided two extremes, right? Whatever the extremes, then what is Buddhism? It is a realistic religion, realistic philosophy, right? Neither pessimistic nor optimistic, but realistic. It really shows the real path, not being enter into any kind of extreme. It just try to show the real way, real path, which is called middle path. That is why Buddhism is considered a realistic philosophy. On the other hand, while it is considered a realistic, sustainable, philosophical teaching, it talks about the dual development of the individual, mundane and supramundane. Mundane and supramundane, development of the individual. Okay? There is a very interesting sutta, very interesting sutta in Anguttara Nikaya known as Andha Sutta. You know? Have you heard about Andha Sutta? The Pali term Andha means blind. Pali term Andha means blind. You may see physical blinded people, right? This is not talking about physical blindness. This talks about, this is a kind of classification of the individual. We all are classified into these three categories. Accordingly, Andancha Eka Chakkuncha Araka Parivajjaye Dvichakku Panaseveta Setto Purisa Puggalo. Noble Eightfold Path is for dual development of the individual. Who is the Andha? Blind. Second category of people is called Eka Chakku. Eka Chakku means person who can see only from one eye. While closing one eye, what will see?
No deaf.
No deaf. But partially deaf, right? Partially blind. Partially blind. Dvichakku, both eyes. Those who can see both eyes. So there are three types of people, characteristics in the universe. Blind, fully blind, one-eyed person and both-eyed person. This is not talking about physical blindness, but this talks about how we are physically and spiritually, how we try to maintain our progress physically and spiritually through the lens of Buddha's teachings. Andha, the blind person, means the person who both physically and spiritually deteriorated individual. Right? Both aspects. Physically, he is deteriorated. And spiritually, he fall down. That is the nature of the blind. Eka Chakku means the nature of that person is either physically progress or spiritually progress. Progression is taken into consideration. Either physically progression, physical progression or spiritual progression. Physical means like, the being wealthy, right? Physical development of the individual, like having being a wealthier person, like that. Physical aspect of the individual, right? But spiritual aspect means beyond that, how to maintain progression of the qualitative progression, not the quantitative progression. By cultivating good qualities, good practices, like that, saddha, sila, chaga, panya, right? The development, progression of those spiritual aspects. And Dvichakku means those who are having both eyes is equivalent to one who is trying to assure the progression of physically and spirituality, both aspects. So Buddha says that Andancha ekachakkuncha araka parivajjaye. Araka parivajjaye means one should avoid, put them away, both andha and ekachakku. But dvichakku panaseveta, one should try to associate only the both-eyed individual, those who are trying to maintain the progression of both aspects, physically and spirituality. So Buddhism, that is why Buddhism comes in the as a realistic religion which talks about both and sustainable development of the individual. Right? Nowadays, sustainable development is used to denote the material development by considering certain aspects like environment or whatever. In Buddhist perspective, sustainable development is, rather than that, it talks about physical and material aspects of the development. Right? Therefore, Noble Eightfold Path, why Buddha has appreciated, mostly talks about the Noble Eightfold Path is the only way for attaining enlightenment, because it really shows the path to the material development of the individual as well as the physical development, spiritual development of the individual. That is why Noble Eightfold Path is considered a sustainable teaching, sustainable concept preached by the Buddha. Therefore, in today's talk, I would like to draw your attention on how Noble Eightfold Path would be a sustainable teaching which directs the followers for the material and spiritual development. Then, according to the morning session, you really identified Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, right? According to Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Buddha mentioned that Dveme bhikkhave anta pabbajitena nasevi tabba. There are two extremes. What are they? Self-mortification and self-indulgence. Self-mortification and self-indulgence. Kama Sukallikanuyoga, self-indulgence. Attakilamattanuyoga, self-mortification. These are two extremes. This can be identified as Sassatavada and Uchchedavada. Sassatavada and Uchchedavada. So both aspects, both extremes have been criticized by the Buddha, saying that hino gammo potujjaniko anaryo anatta sanghito dukkho anaryo anatta sanghito, like that. I am not going to explain them in detail, right? In the morning session, they have been discussed more and more. Then, while rejecting these two extremes, what Buddha elaborated is, Buddha mentioned that one should try to understand the Four Noble Truths according to the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. What is called first noble truth? Dukkha, the noble truth of suffering. Right? First noble truth is noble truth of suffering. What is called suffering? You know that right now. Yeah, it really clearly explain birth, aging, illness, death, union with what is displeasing, separation from what is pleasing, not to get what one wants. In brief, the five aggregates subject to clinging are suffering. Jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, vyadipi dukkho, maranampi dukkhang, appyehi sampayogo dukkho, piyehi vipayogo dukkho, yam piccang nalabhati tampi dukkang sankittena panchupada nakkhandha dukkha. That is how Satya Vibhanga Sutta emphasized this first noble truth. However, according to the Buddha's teachings, the first noble truth of suffering is to be fully understood. Right? Is to be fully understood. That cannot be practiced, right? Can we practice suffering? No. It has to be understood. Why it has to be understood? It shows the real nature. Real nature. Parinyaya, the Pali term parinyaya. Parinyaya means has to be understood, right? The nature of the physical body, nature of the different situations we are facing in our life. Aging, illnesses, death, association of evil friends, departing from the noble friends, all these things, right? So therefore they have to be understood. Why I am trying to revise this point, before coming to the Noble Eightfold Path, there should be a real understanding on these four noble truths, the first, second and third. Therefore, the first noble truth should be really understood, right? The nature. Then second noble truth. Look at the red colored line. What does it say? This noble truth of the origin of suffering is to be abandoned. Parinyaya pahatabba, right? Abandon. Abandon. Because why we are subjected to suffer? Why we are facing different kinds of suffering? The reason why? Because of the craving. Craving leads us to existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight here and there. Tatra tatrabhinandini, right? The Buddha mentioned that tatra tatrabhinandini. We are making delighted in different here and there because of the craving. So the craving is further explained, craving for sensual pleasures, kama tanha. Kama tanha. We have craving on sensual pleasures. Then bhavatanha, craving for existence. Vibhavatanha, craving for extermination. Right? So they have to be, craving has to be abandoned. Until craving exists, we cannot attain enlightenment. Right? That is why now you may understand how Buddha realistically talk about these four noble truths. That is why Buddha said, Pubbe ananusutesu dhammesu, right? You may have heard this phrase, which is found in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Pubbe ananusutesu dhammesu means this doctrine is not something heard before. It is a novel teaching, a new teaching disclosed by the Buddha himself, not by any other teacher, even though hundreds of religious teachers lived by the time of the Buddha. Because he clearly mentioned dukkha, suffering, the truth of suffering should be understood. The cause for the origin of suffering should be abandoned, should be abandoned. Craving should be abandoned. And third, look at the third noble truth. Noble truth of the cessation of suffering. It is the remainderless fading away and cessation of that same craving, the giving up and relinquishing of it, freedom from it, non-reliance on it. Look at the word. The noble truth of the cessation of suffering is to be realized. Satchikatabba. Parinyaya, Pahatabba. Third word is Satchikatabba. Satchikatabba. Satchikatabba means to be realized. What should be realized? Cessation of suffering. The suffering has to be ceased. That has to be realized. Then the fourth noble truth, what we are going to discuss today, is the Noble Eightfold Path. The noble truth of the way leading to the path, leading to the cessation of suffering. It has to be developed. Look at the red line. The noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering is to be developed. What could be the Pali word? Bhavetabba. 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 Bhavetabba means it is something should be cultivated. Right? Develop means something should be cultivated. Gaining understanding on Noble Eightfold Path is not enough. Okay? It is something practically we have to practically use. We have to practice. That is why Buddha has mentioned Bhavetabba. Right? Can you remember 4 words? Number 1, Parinyaya. Number 2, Pahatabba. Number 3, Satchikatabba. Number 4, Bhavetabba. Right? The first truth should be Parinyaya, right? Understood. Second truth should be abandoned, Pahatabba. Third truth should be realized, Satchikatabba. Fourth truth should be developed, Bhavetabba. So therefore, out of the 4 noble truths, the first, second and third are giving a kind of theoretical understanding, theoretical knowledge and understanding. But the fourth one, it means that practicing of the Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. It has to be developed, right? So entirely among the 4 noble truths is a universal concept, universal teaching, right? Universal teaching. Out of them, the first 3 for understanding, and that is something theoretical. But the fourth one, Noble Eightfold Path, is completely one should practically practice. One should practice, right? Therefore, it cannot be learned. It cannot be only through hearing, it cannot be fulfilled, right? Only through practice, the fourth noble truth can be put into practice. Then why middle path? While rejecting and avoiding, instructing the disciples to avoid 2 extremes, Buddha appreciated middle path. Middle path means Noble Eightfold Path. Buddha says that Ayameva aryo attangiko maggo seyyati idam. Right? Ayameva aryo attangiko maggo. Having rejected the two extremes, Buddha pointed out that the middle path is the only way for realization of truth. Only way for attaining enlightenment. It gives rise to vision. Middle path, Noble Eightfold Path gives rise to vision. Right? Noble Eightfold Path creates a vision. Why vision? Why we need a vision? What is vision? Vision is our aim, objective, what we want to achieve. Right? What is our expectation is defined by the vision. Right? So the Noble Eightfold Path, middle path gives rise to vision. It gives us a vision to attain enlightenment. Then gives rise to knowledge. Gives rise to knowledge. It means that Noble Eightfold Path leads us what to practice, the knowledge of what to practice and what should be practiced or what should be avoided. Right? That vision is nourished by the mission through the Noble Eightfold Path. There should be a mission, right? So that achieving vision. Then middle path leads to peace, knowledge, direct knowledge, direct to enlightenment leads to Nibbana. So until attaining enlightenment, Noble Eightfold Path leads the individual entirely. That is why Buddha said, having pointed out that Dveme bhikkhave anta pabbajitena na sevitabba yochayang kamesu kamasu kallikani yogo yochayang attakilamatani yogo, something like that. Buddha emphasized later, ayameva aryo attangiko maggo seyyati idam. It means the Noble Eightfold Path. So the Noble Eightfold Path is the practical way of attaining enlightenment. That is why it has been elaborated in detail in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. What is Noble Eightfold Path? You all are very aware on that. What are they? Samma Ditti, right view. Samma Sankappa, right intention. Samma Vacha, right speech. Samma Kammanta, right action. Samma Ajiva, right livelihood. Samma Vayama, right effort. Samma Sati, right mindfulness. And Samma Samadhi, right concentration. These are the Noble Eightfold Path. There are another two. Now, I will have one question. Whether one can attain enlightenment only by practicing these 8? Noble Eightfold Path? Can or cannot? If you say no, what is the reason?
I think there are still 2 more factors like Bhante says, but I don't know what it is.
What are the 2?
I think we need to give 3 steps. I don't know.
Sila and Bhavana.
Okay. Until right concentration, you said yes. what can be the reason? Why you say like that? There are two factors actually, Samma Jnana and Samma Vimutti. Now here only there are 8 factors which are related to the attain until the absorption of the jhanas. 4th jhana, right? 4th jhana is not the final liberation, final emancipation in Buddhism. If it is so, Buddha may have not discovering truth by himself, having leaving Alara Kalama and Uddakarama Buddha. Even having practiced samatha meditation, one can gain jhana, 4th absorption, right? Through practice in samatha meditation, through the concentration. But it is only for some extent. Then Samma Jnana and Samma Vimukti, by adding that 2, then it would be 10-fold path. We will discuss them in detail later. Okay.
That means he won't match the 10 paramitas.
No, 10 paramita is quite different from that. Here, 10-fold path is quite different. Because what I wanted to say is that there is a misunderstanding that one can attain enlightenment, Nibbana, only by practicing Noble Eightfold Path. That is a misunderstanding, misinterpretation. Right? So it leads us to come to a certain level until the 4th jhana. And then Samma Jnana and Samma Vimukti will lead towards the attaining enlightenment or the emancipation. So however, these are the Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path. While Buddha has appreciated, Buddha said, Chakkung Udapadi, Jnanang Udapadi, Panya Udapadi, Vijja Udapadi, Aloko Udapadi, right? 5 words are used as synonyms to denote how Noble Eightfold Path is effective and how they are important. Chakkung Udapadi. Right? Chakku means eye. Jnanang Udapadi, knowledge. Panya Udapadi, wisdom. Vijja Udapadi, again, like scientific knowledge. And Aloka Udapadi, light, brightening. Something like, that is used to denote the emphasis. So that emphasizing the importance of the Noble Eightfold Path. Those 5 words are used. There is a way, while Buddha was communicating, when Buddha wanted to emphasize something, he has given similar words. Vitakketi, vichareti, vimanseti, right? Different words are used. Otherwise, Buddha used same word 2 or 3 times. So that emphasizing. Okay? Like, Pacchavekkitva kayena kammang khatabbang. It says that you have to do physically or the bodily actions contemplating again and again. That is the way of emphasizing. Another way used by the Buddha is using different words giving similar meanings. Sometimes quite similar, but there may be certain differences. That is why Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta used 5 words. Chakkung Udapadi, Jnanang Udapadi, Panya Udapadi, Vijja Udapadi, Aloko Udapadi. So that emphasizing the importance of the Noble Eightfold Path and its utility for the attaining enlightenment. However, while focusing on Noble Eightfold Path, I don't know whether you can see, here you can see the factor out of the 7 and Anga. This is called threefold training, right? Threefold training. Tisikha. Now here, right view, Samma Ditti, right intention, Samma Sankappa, Samma Ditti and Samma Sankappa, they comes under Panya. Okay? Here Panya means emancipation, realization of truth, or not? No. Don't remember, don't forget that there are another 2, right? Samma Jnana and Samma Vimutti, which completely related to the emancipation. Then, Samma Kammanta, Samma Vacha, Samma Ajiva, right action, right speech and right livelihood. Sila, it comes under Sila. Samma Vayama, Samma Sati and Samma Samadhi comes under Samadhi. Right effort, right mindfulness and right concentration. Now while looking at this classification, do you feel any doubt? Why Panya comes first?
I think Panya should come first, yes.
Why?
Because
Someone may say that Sila should come first. No, I mean that some are of the opinion that Sila should come first.
Panya is
So then you will really understand that the Samma Ditti and Sankappa Panya is not here. Panya is not the, only these 2 factors are not completely related to enlightenment, right? It means that Samma Ditti and Samma Sankappa, it makes the path, it clear the path, right? To proceed over. It creates the path. That is why Panya comes first, according to the threefold training. Yes.
Understand your samsanyati, your 2 additional half, right?
Mm-hmm.
Respect to sanyaditi and sanyakappa. I still don't get what you're trying.
Samma Ditti.
No, that's why you said there's 2 new.
There are 2 more. Yeah. Samma Jnana and Samma Vimutti.
So how does that, what is Samma Jnana and
Samma
Samma?
Jnana is right knowledge. Samma Vimukti, right emancipation. Emancipation, Nibbana, you see the liberation. In Buddhism doesn't use the term liberation for the final goal, achieving Nibbana, right? So the Vimutti means the emancipation, attaining enlightenment, fully enlightenment. That is called. So however, now what I wanted to say is that according to the threefold training, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, right? Normally we use Sila, Samadhi, Panya. But when it comes to the Noble Eightfold Path, Panya comes first. Panya, Sila and Samadhi. According to the context of the Noble Eightfold Path. Because the Panya creates the path for practicing other steps, right? As instance, I'll say like, in Chanki Sutta, one of the Brahmin approached the Buddha and he raised a question. For that, Buddha explained, Saddha jato upasankamati, upasankamanto pairupasati, pairupasanto sotang odahati, odahita soto dhammang sunati, sutva dhammang dhareti, right? Datanang dhammanang attang upaparikkati. That is a gradual path. Buddha's teachings is a gradual path, right? Once Buddha said in Paharada Sutta that one of the Asura known as Paharada approached the Buddha and raised a question. The question was why Buddha's disciples are adhering to the Buddha's words, Buddha's advices. Then Buddha said, without giving a direct answer, Buddha made a counter question. What the question was, why Asuras are very attractive to ocean, to the sea. They are living in the sea. Buddha raised a counter question, why Asuras are very fond of living in the ocean. Then Paharada said 7 factors, 7 points why we are interested in fond of living in ocean. As an instance, one example, ocean, even though it has huge waves, it doesn't exceed the coast. It stops the coast, right? Rather than a kind of circumstances like tsunami or whatever. So like that, 7 points have been elaborated by Paharada. By taking that into example, Buddha said that these are the reasons why my disciples are fond of practicing my teaching. Just as the sea, it makes deeper and deeper when it goes beyond over there, right? From the coast to going over the sea, more and more, sea become deeper and deeper. Anupubba ninno, anupubba pano, anupubba haro, right? In the same way, Buddha said, my teachings are also the gradual path. So therefore, even in the Noble Eightfold Path, it has clearly mentioned the gradual path for enlightenment, starting from Samma Ditti and ending from Samma Samadhi. Samma Samadhi is not the last point, but according to the sequence of the Noble Eightfold Path, it starts from the Samma Ditti. Any question? Before moving to next point? Yes? Establish that idea at the end of the talk, right? Because I have to elaborate these things step by step, and then finally you will understand how it happens. You mean Sammajnana? Yeah. Sammajnana. Okay. Then what is right view? Here right is, the spellings are on, right? R-I-G-H-T, not W. What is right view? Basically, this is called Samma Ditti, right? By the time of the Buddha, there were another 10 points which were known as Micca Ditti. Right? Opposite of Samma Ditti is called Micca Ditti. Micca means wrong views. Sammaditthi, right view. According to Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, right view is knowing about suffering, pariññaya. Then origin of suffering, right? The cessation of suffering and the practice that leads to the cessation of suffering, knowing of these four noble truths is the right view. But when further discussing on these right view, we can understand through the different discourses that there were tenfold micchaditti, tenfold wrong views that certain religious teachers, philosophers lived contemporary to the Buddha in India. They maintain such kind of tenfold wrong views. What did they mention? They mentioned that there is no meaning in giving. Natti dinnang. There is no meaning in practicing generosity. Right? They said that natti punyassa agamo. Right? Natti punyassa agamo. Punya means merit. No merit would be accrued by practicing generosity. Natti punyassa agamo. No merit would come by practicing generosity in the future. Their belief was there is no meaning in practicing generosity. That is called the first micchaditti. Understood? Micchaditti means wrong view. Wrong view. It is opposite of sammaditthi. Secondly, there is no meaning in sacrificing. Sacrificing is one of the religious practices prevailed by the time of the Buddha, practiced by the Brahmin clergies, right? Yaga, yajna. According to them, so that making the God happy, the Brahma happy, one should practice sacrifice. Okay? So even though Buddhism does not accept that, this sacrifice is a kind of generosity. We can say the generously dedicate our time, our effort, our labor for the sake of others, for the well-being of others. Right? They said that there is no meaning. It is useless of practicing that generosity. Okay? Then third point, they said there is no meaning in offerings. Different kinds of offerings. Natti hutang. For the Buddha, Dhamma or Sangha. Right? There is no use of offering. Then natti sukata dukkatanang kammanang palang vipako. Fourth one, there is no fruit or result of good and bad deeds. Is it correct? It is completely a wrong view, because Buddhism has clearly emphasized that if you do something wrong, the result would be bad. If you do something right, or the good results would be good. Yadisang vapate bijang tadisang harati palang. Kalyanakari kalyanang papakari cha papakang. If you cultivate something, you will get the harvest similar to that. Right? if you cultivate paddy, the harvest would be paddy, right? Not any other seed. In the same way, kalyanakari kalyanang papakari cha papakang, if you do something good, the result would be good. If you do something bad, results would be bad. But their point of view was, there is no fruit or result of good and bad deeds. Completely against to the fundamental teachings of Buddhism. We'll say one example from Petavattu. In Petavattu, there was once Venerable Moggallana went to the Peta world. Right? Then, among the greedy ghosts, there was a greedy Peti known as Sattaputta Kadaka Peti, who had the practice of delivering 7 babies in the morning and eat them. And at the same time, 7 babies in the evening, having delivered, eat them. Since she was eating 7 babies once, she was very famous in Ghost realm as the Sattaputta Kadaka Peti. What was the reason? In a previous birth, before 91 eons, kappas, she had been born in the human world. By the time she was a lady, and she had been married to a boy, one gentleman. But by the time she had no childs, then she had been given while she was not having babies, her mother-in-law wanted his son to get married with another lady, so that having child. Then what happened? That marriage was also, they made the marriage finally. The newly received wife showed the signs of having a baby. Then that lady thought that if this lady will deliver a child, I will be a slave of this family. I will not get any recognition in this family. Therefore, she thought that I have to kill this baby. Before birth, even at the womb of mother's womb, she had been killed. Then what happened? She said that my mother-in-law asked whether I did that sinful activity. Then I promised. In front of her, I promised that I did not do that. If I did, in the future, the babies that I am delivering would be having by myself. I did such a promise by making my child's as evidence. She said since then she was born in the greedy ghost realm, Peta world, and since then she practiced that eating one's own babies. So you see, this is how the good and bad behavior actions, the results are mentioned in Buddhist teachings. There are so many stories. You may read Petavattu as well as the Vimanavattu, where we can have more evidences with regard to the good results that they have experienced in the heavenly places as well. Another example, once Bhante Maha was meditating under a tree. He had completed 7 days of Nirodha Samapatti. Having completed 7 days, he got up from the meditation posture and he decided, he was contemplating on from whom should I accept the alms after 7 days. While contemplating on that, through his divine eyes, he saw that there is a very old woman living in a small house. I have to accept her dana. Since it is the dana that he accepted after 7 days, it would be more, it will make more merit for her. With that intention, he went to that lady's house. By the time there were no something to offer inside the home, she identified that there is a monk in front of the house. While if there is a begging bowl on hand, they know that he is a kind of sramana, a religious recluse. By thinking that, she decided to offer the porridge she had prepared for her breakfast. Then as time passes, just after the passing away, she had been born in the heavenly places, in heaven. In the heaven, she was known as Laja. Laja is the Pali term for porridge. Right? When they are making, it looks like this golden color, right? She had a very beautiful skin color, beautiful body in heaven. That is why she was known as Laja angel. However, once she contemplated what kind of merit-making activity I did in previous life, she identified that I did this kind of a merit, and as a result, I got these results in heavenly places. You see, Buddhism clearly mentioned the result of good and bad behaviors, but by the time of the Buddha, there were certain wrong views saying that there is no fruits or results of good and bad deeds out of the 10 Micchaditti. And fifth one, Natti Ayang Loko, there is no this life where we are right now, right? They don't believe on that. Natti Paraloko, there is no afterlife. There is no a place known as heaven, hell, right? Or whatever. No life hereafter. Everything would be end with the death. That is why they said, they had maintained the idea of Yavat Jivang Sukang Jive Trinang Krutva Grutang Pibet Bashmi Bhutasya Dehasya Punara Gamanang Kruta. Their idea was, one can live, one will live only until the death. After that, there is no life. Yavat Jivan Sukhan Jive Trinang Krutva Grutang Pibet. Therefore, even by lending or by being a debtor, one should consume food and all other luxurious things. Because after death, no another life. This is completely against to the Buddha's teachings, right? Buddhism completely doesn't talk about rebirth, right? That is called Punarutpatti. Buddhism talks about re-becoming, punabbhava, natti jani punabbhavo, natti dani punabbhavo, right? Some translations we can see, for the sake of the punabbhava, they use rebirth. It is wrong. Re-becoming is the right word. Because of Buddhism is anatmavada, right? Therefore, that idea, there is no afterlife. The seventh one, Natti Mata. Yes. Actually, that is why it is called Michchaditti. That is why it called wrong view. They maintain that idea even though they experiences all the things in their very eyes. Right? They don't believe, trust on that. That is how they maintain their own view, right? But according to them, that is right. That is their philosophy. Okay? Then, Natti Mata, Natti Pita. There is no such thing as mother or father. Even they did not believe on one's own mother or father. Just as the theocentric religions believe, right? They believe that the God will do everything. Yes. In that sense, they do not believe in mother and existence of mother or father. Natti Mata, Natti Pita. There is no such thing as beings that are reborn spontaneously. Natti Satta Opapatika. Who are the Opapatika? Divine beings, right? There are different categories of beings in the universe according to Buddhism. Andaja, Jala, Bhuja, Sansedaja, Opapatika, 4 categories. Out of them, 4th category, Opapatika means the divine beings, Brahmas, they belongs to the Opapatika category, reborn spontaneously. They did not believe in them. And the last one says, Natti Loke Samana Brahmana. There is no ascetic or Brahmin who is rightly comported and rightly practiced and who describes the afterlife after realizing it with their own insight. It means that they completely rejected the existence of ascetics and the Brahmins, like religious teachers, religious ascetics, they completely rejected. Now these are the wrong views. Why they are called wrong views? Because while maintaining these ideas, they will not really enter the path of emancipation by avoiding unwholesome so that cultivating wholesome. Right? That is why they call Michchaditti. So therefore, Buddhism mentioned that Sammaditthi means someone should really understand the real way of the life, right? Buddhism mentioned that there is a meaning in giving, sacrificing, offerings. There are results of good and bad deeds. There is this life. There is hereafter life. There is a mother, father, and there are beings that are reborn spontaneously. There are ascetics and Brahmins, etc. That is called Dasa Vattuka Sammaditthi. Right? Only those who believe and trust in these points, they will really open up their path to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. That is why this comes under Sammaditthi. On the other hand, there is a discourse in Majjhima Nikaya known as Samma Ditti Sutta. Samma Ditti Sutta. Right? This Samma Ditti Sutta clearly mention what is called Samma Ditti. Samma Ditti, it mentions that there are two, Miccha Ditti and Samma Ditti. Out of them, those who practice wholesome deeds, right? The having the intention of practicing the wholesome deeds, that is called Samma Ditti. Avoiding killing living creatures, stealing, sexual misconduct, avoiding speech that is false, divisive, harsh and nonsensical, contentment, goodwill, and right view. They are the 10 ways of doing skillful deeds. Dasa kusala kamma pata. Dasa kusala kamma pata. This is called the skillful means kusala. Right? Samma Ditti means practice in wholesome or kusala. What is akusala? Opposite of that. Right? Unskillful or the unwholesome. Then Samma Ditti Sutta further mentions that, this sutta further mentions that, what are the root causes for the akusala? Why people are engaged in unwholesome deeds? Because of the unwholesome roots. There are three. What are the three? Greed, hatred and delusion. Lobha, dosa and moha. They call unskillful or unwholesome roots. Buddha said that a noble disciple understands. Samma Ditti means a noble disciple understands the unskillful, akusala, and its root. Right? And the skillful, kusala, and its root. What are the roots for the kusala? Wholesome, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, right? Those are the roots for the kusala, wholesome deeds. Then, and what is the skillful and what is its root? Killing living creatures, etc. It mentions that wrong view. This is called the unskillful, akusala. Greed, hatred and delusion, this is called the root of the unskillful, akusala. You mean that Samma Ditti means nothing but understanding on akusala and their roots. Kusala and their roots. Right? If someone can really understand what is akusala and how people are committing akusala, the reasons for that and roots for that, this understanding is called Samma Ditti, according to Samma Ditti Sutta. Understood? Further, it mentions that the opposite, avoiding of tenfold unwholesome deeds, we cultivate kusala, right? Wholesome. That is called dasa kusala kamma pata. Earlier we said dasa akusala kamma pata. Dasa kusala kamma pata means 10 ways of doing wholesome deeds. And their roots, it means that non-greed, non-hatred and non-delusion. Okay? So only those who believe, trust in those tenfold Samma Ditti, he would cultivate wholesome deeds while abandoning unwholesome deeds. That is what Sammaditthi Sutta mentions about the Sammaditthi. Okay, any questions? Actually, Sammaditthi is the opposite of Micchaditti, right? That is opposite of Micchaditti. And just as the Kusala is the opposite of Akusala, Sammaditthi is opposite of Micchaditti. It means that maintaining strong ideas of right and wrong, right, wholesome and unwholesome, that understanding, that vision is called Sammaditthi. Right? If someone doesn't clearly understand this, he will not pursue towards the practice of wholesome, kusala. Understanding the reality. So that is basically known as Sammaditthi. You suppose that as instance, if someone does not believe the human action, right, that is a Micchaditti. So your own savior, if you believe in super human God, omniscience, right, omnipotent, any kind of such a superior God who are controlling you, that is a kind of Micchaditti accordingly. So the understanding on reality is a Sammaditthi according to the Buddha. On the other hand, that has to be understood actually. Sammaditthi, it has to be understood through that, because if someone really believe or trust in these things, that is not actually mere belief or trust, but really understand, that is called Sammaditthi accordingly. So you may read Sammaditthi Sutta for more information, right? Sammaditthi Sutta, which is found in Majjhima Nikaya, Mula Pannasaka, the first part of the Majjhima Nikaya. Then we'll move on to the second out of the Noble Eightfold Path. That is called right thought. Right intention or right thought, Samma Sankappa. What is called Sankappa? Volition, right? Normally intentions, thoughts or volitions. Then in Pali canonical text, it is mentioned 3 types of thoughts, volitions or the intentions, like the thoughts of renunciation, thought of goodwill, and the thought of harmlessness. Nekkamma sankappa, avyapada sankappa, avihinsa sankappa. Right? Nekkamma sankappa, avihinsa sankappa, then avyapada sankappa. Nekkamma sankappa means thought of renunciation. Only those who have opened up their mind through the Sammaditthi, then he will persuade his mind towards the right intentions. Okay? Then he tries to practice renunciation. Renunciation means, what is called renunciation? Nekkamma. What you have done right now? It is a form of practicing renunciation, right? Coming from home to homelessness. Now we all are homelessness. Right? That is basically pabbajita or pabbajja. Praurajya, the Pali term, the Sanskrit term mentions that. Vraj means the house, right? leaving from house is called pabbajja. Now we are homeless, home from homelessness, right? So this is a form of renunciation. We can practice it in different ways, not only from leaving our home, but also that is what Buddha said under the practicing of perfections paramita, right? Especially in the dana paramita, practice in the generosity by practice in generosity by giving one's own material things, physical things, and one's own parts of the body, and sacrificing one's own body for the well-being of others, for the sake of others. That is a real way of renunciation. From the Buddha's biography, you understood how Bodhisattva practiced the renunciation, right? Even in the last birth, having been born as a royal prince, right? Yesterday, you under the pictorial, you saw how the Bodhisattva renounced the world, right? One's own palaces, kinship, and all the royal the facilities he had. Having left everything, he practiced renunciation, searching of what is truth and what is wholesome. Kin satcha gavesi, kin kusala gavesi. So that is a renunciation. The mentality or the thought of renunciation is open when someone maintains the right view. Then avyapada sankappa. Avyapada sankappa means its opposite is vyapada. Vyapada means the intention of harming others, intention of ill will, angry, hatredness, right? Hatred. Avyapada sankappa means maintaining compassion, loving kindness against the ill will, maintaining the good will is called avyapada sankappa. Then avihimsa sankappa, the intention of non-violence, harmlessness, non-violence, avihimsa sankappa. So basically, this is the right intention, right thought is a kind of mental concomitance, mental volitions that arises in one's mind, how we respond to others, right? Through the renunciation, the mentality of renunciation for the well-being of others, the mentality of practicing goodwill, avoiding ill will, the mentality of practicing loving kindness by avoiding harmfulness for others is called right thought. However, how one should develop one's mentality is, he bears no evil and is not corrupt in the resolves of his heart. He thinks, may these beings be free from animosity, free from oppression, free from trouble, and may they look after themselves with ease. So if we are able to maintain such kind of friendly mentality towards others, that is called right thought or right intention, right? In that right intention, you have the mentality of renunciation for the well-being of others. That is what bodhisattvas did. On the other hand, the compassionate, loving kindness, as well as goodwill for the well-being of others is the nature of the right thought. Then when we are cultivating right thought, automatically our mind is ready to practice other stages of the Noble Eightfold Path according to the Buddha's teachings. Okay, any question? We will continue from the third one in the next session. However, we can continue the discussion for further. Yes.
So I think that is critical that
Actually, they are interrelated.
exactly.
Yeah, they are interrelated. It looks like a chain, right, which is connected to each other. That is why I said, while the establishing the right view, then it persuades someone to practice the second, third, and other stages of the Noble Eightfold Path. So they cannot deviate. They cannot deviate.
From the right view, right until the right concentration.
Yeah, concentration.
Because if you don't start from right view, you have to start halfway.
Cannot. Yes.
But Bhante, in a way, a bit unfair, because it thinks that renunciation is right. So those who do not
Sorry,
have
renunciation?
wrong view,
Sorry?
because like, because you think that right view leads to right thought,
Mm-hmm.
to do the right thing. Okay? But on the reverse, like for example, the thoughts of renunciation. So if you reverse it, for those who do not renounce, then they have wrong view. That's
No.
not fair.
As an instance, I'll say like this. You suppose that, right? As an instance, you suppose that one who does not believe in good and bad, results of good and bad behavior, they will not practice renunciation. As an instance, if you suppose that if someone does not accept the result of karma, right, good and bad actions, they will not practice generosity. They think that it is useless. No merit would come. No merit would accrue. Therefore, no need to work, practice generosity like that. When we are having the right view, then it leads us to do right thing, right action. Right? So that is why, while practicing generosity, the renunciation, our mentality is prepared for renunciation. Otherwise, don't.
The renunciation is not what we are doing now. That renunciation is to renounce the things. So it's two different aspects.
Yeah, it is two different. But the mind should be ready from the right view so that practically conduct the renunciation and the other goodwill and other mental cultivation of the mental wholesome thoughts.
Just now, this Bhante was asking about how would you know that you are in the group of noble people. Okay? Again, it comes back to the right view, right? If you have the right view, listening to the right Dharma, just like what you have listening to Bhante here, when you talk or you speak to a person, you would know that this person is whether it's a noble person or he's a crook, right? And if you have studied more, listened more, understanding more, and practicing more important, then you will be able to understand whether is this person is at which level, for example, Sotapan or Sakadagami or Anagami, because these people, they have different characteristics. Because once you have reached Sotapan, this person will have no qualms about the Dharma, right? And they have already let go at least 3 fetters, right? So that he will not lie, for sure. He will not kill, for sure, right? And the other one, either he will avoid anger, or he have lessened down the anger, or lessened down the jealousy. So with this characteristic, you would know that this person is a noble person or not. Right? Just now, that day when I had spoke about the truth, remember? You won't tell a lie. A Sotapan will never lie. He will never lie. You kill him also, he will never lie. Okay? That's why, and then you were talking about livelihood. Oh, I need to lie to live. You will leave. You will leave the job and you will not lie. Okay? And talking about killing, okay, a Sotapan will not kill intentionally. Sometimes unintentionally, yes, but that one is unintentionally. But they will never kill intentionally. So with this characteristic of a person, you would know, even though he may not be Sotapan, because when someone reaches Sotapan, he will never tell you that he will reach Sotapan. That's for sure. Okay, wherever he reach, level he reach, he will not tell you. Because it is inside already, you have already cultivated that wholesome deed that you will not reveal yourself until probably on your deathbed, then only you may reveal. But you will not reveal until then, right? So that is how you will know that you are in the company of the noble man or the noble people.
Anyone who has attained any status of the Nibbanic path like Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami or Arahat, they will not show you any label. I am an Arahant,
No,
I am Sotapanna, I am in this level, this status, like that. They will not show, right? But by contemplating on one's behavior and how qualities they show through their behavior, others will understand who are you and whether you have obtained any kind of status or not, right? There is nice story that once a devotee invited a dana to a monk who was still an Arahant, already an Arahant. Then after inviting, he came to the temple to accompany that monk to one's own house for offering dana. Right? On the way, there was a mud water spot where he was difficult to go over. Then how that monk go over that place was, he jumped into other side. Right? Then the devotee thought that this one is not a virtuous one. Therefore, I will offer dana to him since I invited, but I will not give any pariskara, pirikara or whatever for him. I will cut off that part. Then secondly, the Arahant identified the mentality of that devotee, and there was another place, the same, rather than that, there was a water spot where there were mud. In that spot, the monk, without jumping other side, he went over that space. Then devotee had a doubt whether this monk identified my mentality or not. While he was jumping over the first place, The second place was more than that mud and the water filling area, but he, without jumping, he just went over that. Then he identified that this Venerable has a kind of higher mental status. That is how he identified that this one is an Arahanto, someone who has achieved higher status of the higher status like that. So, but that Arahant never said that I am an Arahant, therefore I can read your mind. Then I identified what you was thinking, and he never said like that. So therefore, nowadays there are someone try to emphasize that I have gained such and so-called status, I am Sotapanna level, I am Sakadagami level or whatever. That is something hypocritical, right? I will explain that in later under the Samma Ajiva, while talking about Samma Ajiva, how it says. However, they can be identified only through one's own mentality, thinking, thought patterns, and the behavior as well. No need to think much about that. Just try to practice good things. Okay, then we will wind up today's evening session on today's program. I hope that you learned something from today's talk, and we will continue with the rest of the Noble Eightfold Path factors in the next talk at 8 o'clock at night. So wish you all the best. Say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.